Before we start, please don't forget to like and subscribe. The ballroom at Crest Hill Towers was glowing, chandeliers overhead, snowflake lights dancing across polished floors, the clink of champagne flutes ringing with end-of-year celebration. My company's winter gala had always been a highlight, the kind of night that reminded us we were building something together, until tonight. I found her near the back of the lounge, laughing, too loud, too loose. Melissa, my wife, my partner, my mistake? Melissa, I said, standing firm in front of her, holding my phone in one hand, thumb poised over the play button. I saw the lounge camera footage. She blinked, slowly, still grinning. Footage? I didn't answer. I just hit play. On the screen, clear as daylight, Melissa leaned into a man in a navy coverall. Marcus, one of our janitorial staff. Her fingers brushed his chest. She whispered something and giggled. His body language was awkward, unsure, but hers was bold, overconfident, like she didn't think anyone could ever touch her throne. She laughed now, but differently, shrill, exaggerated. Oh, come on, Ethan. That was harmless fun. Harmless, I said quietly. You were touching him. On camera. In our company lounge. Her friend Tara, perched next to her with a champagne glass in hand, tossed her head back with a smirk. So leave us alone and let me have some fun with your husband then. The room shifted. It started with the DJ stopping the music, mid-chorus. Conversations fizzled out. Chairs stopped scraping. Dozens of eyes turned. I saw our CFO stiffen. A marketing intern half-choked on her mimosa. Melissa's smile wavered. Her eyes flicked around the room like she just realized she was standing naked in front of a crowd. Ethan, she said, reaching for my hand. You're making a scene. I didn't flirt with anyone, I said, stepping back. You did. In my company. With someone I hired. I was being friendly, she snapped, voice tightening. That's what people do at parties. You didn't laugh like that with me in months. That hit. She froze. Tara, not reading the room, rolled her eyes. He's being dramatic, Mel. Just spin it into a TikTok moment and move on. I turned to her slowly. Tara, this isn't a game show. It's a marriage. The silence was brutal. The kind that makes your skin itch. I could feel the temperature drop by 10 degrees. Melissa swallowed hard, her face blanching beneath her perfect foundation. Her posture shrank an inch. And I didn't say another word. I just turned and walked out. By the time I stepped outside, the winter air slapped the last bit of denial off my face. I should have seen this coming. Melissa had always liked being seen, admired, worshipped even. I was the steady one, the man behind the curtain, keeping the company humming while she fluttered about like the main act. I was the guy who left at 7:30 every morning, coffee in hand, tie straight. One of those men who gets called dependable in performance reviews. Middle class, mid-rise condo, prepped lunches, and always paid the insurance on time. I didn't need wild. I needed loyalty. But tonight proved something brutal. Even the most solid lives can snap like twigs if you're not watching the cracks. And this was just the beginning of the break. That night, the condo was too quiet. The kind of quiet that hums louder than noise. I sat in the living room, back straight on the edge of the couch, staring into the dark television screen like it might offer answers I didn't want to hear. Melissa came in 20 minutes later. She'd changed out of her cocktail dress into a soft gray sweater, her hair pulled into a bun like she was trying to shift the night into something normal. She didn't speak at first, just stood in the doorway, her purse still dangling from her shoulder, watching me. I didn't look at her. She took a breath, stepped further in. So, you gonna ignore me all night? I gave you the whole party to talk. My voice was quiet, not cold, just hollow. You ambushed me, Ethan, she said, flopping onto the opposite couch cushion. In front of everyone. You embarrassed me. I turned to her slowly. You embarrassed yourself, Melissa. I just pressed play. She scoffed and looked away, arms crossed. It was harmless. I leaned forward, hands folded. One chance. That's all I'm giving you. Say what really happened. No spin. No laughs. Just the truth. She glanced back at me, eyes narrowing. Then she gave a small, dismissive laugh. What are you talking about, Ethan? It was nothing. It's not like I slept with him. I never said you did. I locked eyes with her. But you crossed a line. And I need to know why. Melissa stretched out her legs, like this was a casual debate. Oh my God, it was just office banter. He cleans our building, not a priest. I was being nice. I shook my head slowly. You weren't being nice. You were being reckless. You flirted with someone you thought didn't matter. And you forgot where the cameras are. She frowned at that. The illusion cracked for a second. You actually had someone pull the footage? I didn't have to. HR flagged it. Marcus was uncomfortable. He reported it. Her face went still. She stood up abruptly. I need to make dinner. I haven't eaten. And just like that, she fled into the kitchen. I stayed exactly where I was, watching her move. She turned on the stove too fast, fumbling with the pan like it could shield her from the weight of her own guilt. The kitchen lights cast a harsh glow over her shoulders as she grabbed olive oil and some frozen chicken, throwing herself into it like this was any other Tuesday. You know what I think this is? She said over the sound of the burner clicking. You're jealous. I'm not supposed to have fun or talk to people because you're the big boss now. I didn't answer. The oil hissed as she dropped the chicken in. She flinched. God, say something, she muttered. I stood, walked to the archway that framed the kitchen but didn't step in. You think I care that you laugh with someone? I asked, voice even. I care that you did it in a place where we built everything. My company, our livelihood, in front of people who report to me. And you didn't just laugh, Melissa. You touched him. You whispered things into his ear. She turned to me, arms crossed now, spatula still in her hand like she'd forgotten it was there. Do you really think I'd throw away our marriage over a janitor? That's not what you threw away. I nodded slightly. You threw away dignity, respect, and maybe us. The words hung there. Heavy, real. She looked down, then back at the pan. You're being dramatic. No, I said. I'm being clear. She didn't reply. I turned and walked back to the couch, leaving her in the kitchen, still pretending that dinner would somehow make it all better. The smell of browning garlic started filling the air, but it didn't cover the tension. It didn't erase the weight in my chest or the hollow silence growing between us like a wall of glass. I sat again, this time leaning back, and watched her from across the room. And in that stillness, something inside me quietly broke. Not from anger. From knowing I'd hoped for a truth she had no interest in giving. It was nearly midnight when I walked upstairs. Melissa had fallen asleep on the couch, the TV humming low and forgotten. I stood there for a long moment, just watching her breathe, peacefully, like none of this meant anything. Like she hadn't detonated something inside our life with one careless, arrogant choice. I didn't feel rage. Not even sadness anymore. Just clarity. I walked into our bedroom, opened the closet, and pulled out her 2 large suitcases, the ones with gold trim she only used for vacations. I laid them on the bed and started folding. Dress shirts, makeup bags, her silk robe, one drawer at a time. I didn't rush. I wasn't throwing her out in a fury. This wasn't a tantrum, it was an exit strategy. The house was silent except for the slow zip of each suitcase closing. When I rolled them down the stairs, the click of the wheels against each step echoed like gunshots. The moment I reached the door, I hesitated for half a second, then opened it, wheeled them onto the porch, and let them sit there beneath the porch light. Melissa stirred as I closed the door behind me. Her eyes fluttered open. What are you doing? She muttered, still half asleep. I stood there calmly, hands by my sides. You won't answer me honestly, so I'm answering for both of us. She sat up quickly, eyes narrowing. You're kicking me out. I packed what you need. The rest can be collected later. Melissa's voice sharpened. You're insane. You're not staying here. She stood now, voice rising. This is my house too, Ethan. You don't get to make that decision alone. Then you should have remembered that before you disrespected everything this house stands for. Her face twisted, shifting from shock to fury in seconds. You can't do this. I will not be humiliated like this. I didn't answer. I walked past her and sat down again in the armchair. Calm, grounded, like I was waiting for a storm that had already passed. She yanked open the door and stumbled out barefoot, shouting at the street, probably hoping a neighbor would peek out. Unbelievable. He's actually throwing me out like trash. But no lights turned on. No one came. Just the chill night wind carrying her voice. 15 minutes later, a knock came at the door. I opened it to find 2 police officers standing on the porch, Melissa right behind them, arms folded like a victorious chess player. Sir, one officer began. We received a complaint about a domestic dispute. There was no dispute, I said. She flirted with an employee. I asked her to leave. The younger officer glanced at the suitcases. Is she a resident of this address? She is. Then you can't legally evict her without due process. She has a right to remain in the residence until proper proceedings are followed. I nodded slowly. Understood. Melissa stepped past the officers with a smug little smile that could slice steel. She paused at the threshold, turned her head slightly, and said low enough for just me to hear, "Told you. You don't control everything, Ethan." I didn't move. I didn't flinch. I looked her dead in the eye. "I warned you, I don't bluff." Her smile faltered for a half second. Just a flicker. Then she walked inside, suitcase handle in hand, parading past me like she'd won something. But it wasn't victory she was dragging behind her. It was the opening of a war she didn't even know had started. I walked into my office at 8:03 the next morning, same as always. Jacket off, sleeves rolled, coffee in hand. But everything felt different. This time, I didn't open emails first. I didn't check sales projections or board memos. I opened one document, the internal HR roster, and typed a name into the search bar, Wendy Carlisle, Melissa's younger sister, Human Resources Associate, employed 3 years, referred by me. I clicked terminate employment, not with anger, with precision. Cause, conflict of interest, breach of executive trust. I printed the form, signed the bottom, and handed it to our HR director without ceremony. Effective immediately, I said. By 5 that evening, the storm reached my doorstep. I heard the car pull up, the frantic knock seconds later. The door flew open before I could say a word. "Are you out of your mind, Wendy?" Her voice cracked as she burst into the entryway, cheeks streaked with tears, her purse barely clinging to her shoulder. Melissa trailed behind her, clearly the one who'd summoned her. "What is going on?" Wendy cried, her voice shaking. "Why did HR escort me out like I was some kind of criminal?" No explanation, just, "You've been released from your position?" I stood at the end of the hallway, hands in my pockets. Silent. "Ethan, talk to me," she begged. "You sponsored my hire. You trained me. What did I do?" Melissa placed a shaky hand on her sister's arm. I think this is just a misunderstanding. He's upset, okay? About the party," Wendy snapped toward her. "Wait, what? What does the party have to do with this?" Melissa's eyes darted to me, then to the floor. "Ethan thinks he believes I maybe flirted with someone I shouldn't have, and, well, things got taken the wrong way." "The wrong way," I said quietly. My first words since Wendy entered. They both turned to me. I didn't move. I didn't raise my voice. I just looked at Melissa. "You touched him, Melissa. You whispered in his ear and smirked when you walked away. You thought no one would notice. And now the fallout's here." Wendy looked between us, eyes widening. "You did what?" Melissa's mouth opened, then closed. She reached for Wendy again, but her sister stepped back. "Melissa," Wendy said, "do you know how hard I worked for that job? Do you know what it meant for me to build something without being in your shadow?" Melissa shook her head quickly. "This isn't about you, no. But now it is," Wendy said, her voice splintering. "Because you played with matches in his house, and now I'm burning for it." I didn't say a word. I just stood there, still as stone, watching them. Wendy turned to me one last time. "Please. I'm your employee, not hers. Can't we talk?" My silence was answer enough. She blinked at me, like seeing someone she didn't recognize, then slowly backed out the front door, wiping her eyes with the sleeve of her coat. Melissa watched her go, mouth trembling but silent. And I just turned away, walking down the hallway, leaving my wife alone in the dim light by the door. She was learning, one consequence at a time. Actions echo louder than intentions. The door had barely clicked shut behind Wendy when Melissa turned to me. Her face was pale. Gone was the self-assured smirk she'd worn the night before. Her hands trembled slightly as she closed the door and leaned her back against it, like she needed something to hold her up. "Ethan," she said quietly, not meeting my eyes. "Can we talk?" I didn't answer. I walked past her, back toward the living room. The air was thick again, not just with tension, but with something else. Defeat. Realization. Maybe both. She followed. "Please," she said again, stepping in front of me, voice softer now, like she was speaking to a stranger she didn't want to scare off. "Can we just talk? Not fight. Not punish. Just talk." I looked at her. Really looked at her. She was wearing that same oversized sweater from the night before. Hair still undone. No makeup. Just Melissa, stripped of her glamour, finally standing in the center of the mess she created. She reached for me. Her fingers hovered, like she wasn't sure if she was allowed to touch me anymore. I know things went too far, she whispered. I get it now, and I shouldn't have dragged Wendy into it. She didn't deserve that. My jaw clenched, but I stayed silent. Melissa pressed on, her voice shaking. Can we just call this even? I admit I was wrong. I was stupid, okay? Can we please not keep going down this road? Even, I said, barely louder than a breath. Her eyes lit up slightly, like maybe, just maybe, she was getting through. I stepped in closer. She didn't back away. I leaned in until my voice didn't need to rise at all. That, I said, was the opening shot. Her lips parted, confused. I continued, slowly, coldly. Now the war begins. And you're next. The words knocked the hope right out of her face. Melissa took a half step back, like they'd physically hit her. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Why are you doing this? I didn't blink. Because you made this a game. You smiled while setting fire to what we built. You thought the rules didn't apply to you. I said I was sorry, she said, voice shaking. Sorry, I repeated. Sorry doesn't put trust back in the box. Sorry doesn't fix what's already burned. I stepped past her slowly. She turned as I walked, trying to follow, but her legs didn't move. Her body stayed planted while her eyes trailed me. Like a woman watching someone walk away from the wreckage of a house she just realized was hers. When I reached the hallway, I turned back briefly. Melissa still stood there, frozen, arms wrapped around herself, shaking slightly. And then, without another word, she crumpled onto the couch, clutching a throw pillow like it might stop the unraveling. I watched her curl into herself. Her shoulders trembled, but I didn't flinch. The cold had shifted now. It wasn't coming from outside. It was radiating from me, and it was just getting started. The next morning, the sky was overcast, the city bathed in muted grays. I stepped into the lobby of Morgan and Holt LLP, glass, marble, and quiet ambition. Every surface gleamed like it had something to prove. The receptionist gave me a polished smile. Mr. Hale, Attorney Jules Carter is expecting you. I nodded, adjusting my cufflinks as I followed her down the corridor. Jules Carter wasn't what I expected. He was younger than I imagined, maybe mid-30s, but everything about him screamed control. Crisp navy suit, gold tie pin, not a single wrinkle on his shirt or in his confidence. He stood when I entered. Ethan Hale. I've been briefed. Please, have a seat. We shook hands. Firm. Respectful. Jules didn't waste time. He opened a leather folder and slid it toward me. The footage, he said, tapping the screen of a slim tablet. Security feed from your company lounge. I've reviewed it twice. I leaned forward slightly as the clip played. Melissa, leaning close, laughing. The way her hand lingered on Marcus's chest. The whisper. The smirk. He hit pause. Here's the problem, Jules said, locking eyes with me. Legally, it's bad judgment. Unprofessional. But it's not enough. No direct language. No physical coercion. No explicit misconduct. So what are you saying? I asked calmly. I'm saying it won't hold in court. You'd lose. Your wife's lawyer would spin it as harmless interaction, an overly friendly gesture misinterpreted. I didn't move. I just studied him. Then I spoke clearly. Then it's time, I said, to apply pressure where it matters. Jules arched a brow, intrigued. Meaning, I don't need her behind bars. I need leverage. Influence. A story that doesn't unravel under soft lighting and excuses. Something with weight. Jules leaned back slowly in his chair, studying me now like I was the interesting part of the case. You want a stronger angle. I want truth, I said. And if that truth isn't enough in its current form, then we pull it into focus. We push until it matters. He nodded once. There are options. She's employed at your company. That opens the door to professional conflicts. Abusive access. We could explore workplace boundaries, HR violations. Build a pattern. She's already off payroll, I said. Termination comes next week. I'm taking it one step at a time. Clean, he replied. Methodical. I like that. I leaned in. This isn't revenge. This is correction. I gave her every chance to walk out with dignity. And now? Jules asked. Now, I said, eyes steady. We make sure she doesn't think she can float through this untouched. Jules smiled faintly. You're not like most of my clients, Mr. Hale. I'm not like most husbands, I said. We shook hands again, and I left the office with my coat over my arm, wind slicing down the street like a warning. My mind wasn't spinning anymore. It was focused, Not just on what she'd done, but on what came next. The next day, the office buzzed with the usual rhythm. Keyboards clicking, phones ringing, voices low and measured. But there was a tension in the air, something that rippled just beneath the surface. Everyone sensed a storm coming. I sat in my office, glass-walled, overlooking the open floor. The kind of space designed to keep secrets impossible. You could see everything. And today, that was intentional. At 11:12 a.m., I buzzed reception. Send Melissa in. She entered 2 minutes later. Burgundy blouse. Heels too high for a casual workday. Lipstick slightly too perfect. She thought this was just about appearances. She had no idea the mask was about to crack. Close the door, I said. She did. Sit down. She raised her eyebrows slightly but obeyed. Did you really make me come all the way up here just to talk like strangers? I didn't answer. I opened the drawer, pulled out a single sheet of paper, and slid it across the glass desk. Her eyes dropped. Notice of termination, she didn't pick it up. Just stared at the top line like it might change if she looked long enough. Her voice broke the silence. You're firing me? Yes. From the company I helped build with you? You flirted with a subordinate employee in a monitored space. There are statements, footage, and an HR investigation that confirms it. It was nothing, she snapped. I didn't flinch. Then this will be nothing too. She stared at me, lips parted, voice low. Is this about the divorce? This is about accountability, I said. But yes, you'll now have plenty of time to prepare. A flicker of panic crossed her face. Can we talk privately? This is private. I mean, not with the whole floor watching us like a damn fishbowl. She motioned behind her, where the staff could see everything. A few heads were already subtly turned toward us, pretending to look elsewhere. She leaned closer. Please, Ethan, don't do this like this. I met her eyes. You did this like this. Not me. Then I pressed the intercom. Security to my office. Her face paled instantly. Ethan, the guard entered within a minute, a quiet presence in a charcoal uniform. Melissa stood slowly. You're making a mistake. This is going to haunt you. I didn't answer. I didn't even blink. The guard held the door open as she stepped out, the letter still clenched in her hand. The glass door clicked behind her, louder than it needed to. The floor fell silent. Everyone knew what just happened. They didn't look at me. They didn't whisper. They just watched. And Melissa? She turned back once, right before the elevator. Her eyes were full of something I hadn't seen in her in a long time. Not defiance. Not confidence. Fear. Real quick, hit the like button to boost the story. I found him in the break room, just past noon. Marcus stood alone near the vending machines, awkwardly sipping from a paper cup of lukewarm coffee. He was dressed in the same navy jumpsuit he always wore, a little too large for his thin frame, and his eyes darted toward the exit every few seconds like he was waiting for someone. Maybe an escape. He didn't see me until I was already beside him. Marcus, I said calmly. He flinched, nearly spilling the coffee. Mr. Hale, sir. I was just taking a short break. I didn't. I held up a hand to stop him. Relax. You're not in trouble. He nodded quickly, though his grip on the cup tightened. Right. Okay. Sit with me, I said, motioning to the small table near the far window. We both sat. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. The hum of the refrigerator filled the space between us. Then I started. You filed a complaint 2 weeks ago. His throat bobbed. Yes, sir. You said you felt uncomfortable. I did. I mean, I still do. It's been weird. Melissa approached you inappropriately? I asked, my voice even non-accusatory. Marcus swallowed hard. She was persistent, touchy, flirty. She kept saying it was just a joke, but it didn't feel like one. Especially with, you know, how she's your wife and all. Not for much longer, I replied calmly. But I need you to do something, Marcus. Something simple. He sat straighter, unsure. What's that? I need you to tell the truth, I said. In court. Under oath. Exactly what happened in that lounge. Nothing more, nothing less. His eyes widened. Court. I nodded once. Marcus looked down at his coffee, then at me again. Will I lose my job? I'm not asking you to lie. Just confirm what you already said to HR. That's all. He hesitated. But if she finds out? I mean, what if this turns into a mess? It already is a mess, I said. But you won't be dragged into it. You'll be released from your duties quietly, with a sealed record and a positive reference. No black marks. No questions. dignity intact. He looked at me for a long second. Then slowly, he nodded. Yeah, okay. I can do that. Good. I stood. Marcus followed, still gripping the coffee like it was the only solid thing he had left. Thank you, he said quietly. I didn't know who to talk to about it before. I didn't want to get in the middle. You were already in the middle, I replied, eyes steady. But now you'll walk out of it clean. There was no handshake. No congratulations. Just a mutual understanding passed through quiet tones and shared unease. As I walked out of the break room, I didn't feel triumph. I felt certainty. The trap was closed. And this time, Melissa wouldn't be able to laugh her way out. I unlocked the front door at 8:46 p.m. The lights were off, save for a single lamp in the hallway casting a pool of dim gold across the floor. For a moment, I thought the house was empty. Quiet. Then I saw her. Melissa. She was sitting on the floor just inside the door, knees tucked beneath her, hands clasped in her lap like a child waiting to be scolded. Her shoes were off. No makeup. The usual sharpness in her expression had melted into something softer. Or maybe desperate. She didn't speak right away. I closed the door behind me, set my keys down on the console, and looked at her. She raised her eyes slowly, cautiously. I didn't know where else to go, she said. Her voice wasn't cold anymore. It wasn't sharp. It was small, like the edges had finally worn down. I didn't say anything. I just waited. She shifted her weight, but stayed on her knees. I know things got out of hand. I know I pushed it too far. But we don't have to go to war, Ethan. Not really. Still, I said nothing. I'll cooperate. I'll sign whatever you need, she whispered. If you just stop all this, just stop humiliating me. Stop digging deeper. We can do this quietly. Please. My jaw tensed. I kept my coat on. I hadn't even set down my briefcase. She looked up at me again, her eyes glossy. I'll tell the truth. About everything. If that's what you want. That was the moment she played the last card she had left. I bent down just enough so she'd hear me clearly. My voice was low, controlled, and colder than the air outside. The cleaner, I said, will tell the court everything. Melissa blinked. What? I spoke to him today. Marcus. He's testifying. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. Your truth, I said, standing upright again, means nothing now. She sank further to the floor, like the weight of that sentence had physically crushed her. No, she whispered. You can't. Ethan, you don't have to do this. Please. I was scared. I didn't know it would go this far. You can't just let this ruin everything. I stepped around her slowly. You ruined everything, I said, walking past. She reached for my leg, but I pulled away without breaking stride. Please, Ethan. Her voice cracked. Please don't do this. Please don't do this to me. I paused at the bottom of the stairs, looked back one last time. She was still on her knees, crumpled against the wall, face buried in her hands. The sobs came next. Deep, guttural. They echoed through the hall, but they didn't reach me. Because something had changed. The woman who used to walk around this house like it was her stage was now on the ground, asking for a deal she no longer had the leverage to make. The emotional power had shifted, and she felt it. Every second of it. I walked upstairs without another word. No comfort, no consolation, just the sound of her crying behind me, fading step by step. And when I closed the bedroom door, there wasn't relief. There was stillness. The kind you get when a storm passes and you know another one's coming. But for now, just for a moment, the house is quiet. The courtroom was colder than I expected. Neutral walls, pale carpeting, a clock that ticked louder than it should have. Melissa sat across from me, her hair tied back tight, wearing a navy blazer that swallowed her frame. She hadn't looked at me once since we entered. Jules Carter sat beside me, calm and alert, flipping through documents like we weren't about to put an entire marriage on public record. Then they called Marcus. He walked to the stand like a man walking toward traffic. He adjusted his collar twice. Didn't look at either of us. But when he was sworn in, I watched something settle in him. Not confidence, just clarity. The opposing attorney stepped forward first. Mr. Thompson, in your own words, can you describe the nature of your interactions with Mrs. Hale? Marcus shifted uncomfortably. It started with small comments. Jokes. I thought she was just being friendly. But then she'd get close. Touch my arm. Ask about my shifts. Call me cute when no one else was around. Melissa's lawyer interrupted. And you never objected? I didn't know how, Marcus said honestly. She's the wife of the boss. You don't just file a complaint and expect to keep your job. A murmur spread through the room. The judge raised her hand. Order. Jules stood. Did you feel you were in a position where saying no might cost you? Yes, absolutely. And did Mrs. Hale ever apologize or acknowledge that her behavior was inappropriate? Marcus shook his head slowly. No. She just laughed. Said I was lucky she noticed me. Melissa flinched. Just slightly. The judge leaned forward. And do you believe this behavior was manipulative? Yes, Your Honor, Marcus said. She knew exactly what she was doing. The silence that followed was final. 30 minutes later, the judge delivered her ruling. Given the testimony and submitted evidence, the court finds no grounds to grant spousal compensation to Mrs. Hale. Property rights will proceed per agreement. Mrs. Hale's conduct is determined to have caused professional harm and personal distress to the complainant and the plaintiff. Melissa didn't speak. She didn't move. She just sat still, her hands clasped so tightly they turned white. After the hearing, I found Marcus near the elevators. He looked tired, but lighter somehow. You did the right thing, I said simply. He nodded. Thanks for not throwing me under the bus. I promised you'd walk out clean. I meant it. 2 days later, Marcus's resignation was processed. No drama. No gossip. His exit interview was short. I made sure HR gave him a strong reference. No headlines. No whispers. Just a quiet departure, the kind I knew he deserved. The morning after the hearing, the sun was out for the first time in what felt like weeks. Light streamed through the office windows, making the glass walls of my office glow faint gold. There was a strange calm in the building, a quiet that didn't feel heavy anymore. I sat behind my desk, reviewing quarterly projections, when a soft knock came. I looked up. Wendy stood in the doorway. She looked unsure, like someone entering a room they'd once called home but had long been locked out of. I got your message, she said carefully. Is this real? I nodded. Come in. She took a step inside, still holding her purse in front of her like a shield. Ethan, I don't even know what to say, she stammered. I thought I was done here. You didn't owe me anything after everything. I never held your last name against you, I said. She let out a shaky breath. Still, I didn't defend you. I didn't even ask Melissa what happened. I just panicked. I thought. I stood, walked around the desk, and met her halfway. Wendy, I said, voice steady. Melissa's astral body got caught in the blast wave she created. It wasn't your fault. Her mouth parted, confused. Wait, what? I gave a faint smile. What I mean is, she made a mess. A calculated, arrogant mess. And you were collateral. But I've seen your work. I've watched you grow. You earned your place here. So if you still want it, before I could finish, she dropped her purse on the chair and stepped forward. Then, without hesitation, she threw her arms around me. The hug was tight. Real. Not performative. Thank you, she whispered. Seriously, thank you. I didn't say anything for a moment. I just let her hold on. When she stepped back, her eyes were glassy but grateful. I'll prove you made the right call, she said. I know you will. Later that morning, when the staff saw her walking back into the HR wing, heads turned, but not in judgment. More like relief. Like something had finally righted itself. Someone brought her a coffee. Someone else offered to help her set up her computer again. No gossip. No whispers. Just a quiet return to normal. And from my office, behind glass that no longer felt like armor, I watched the floors settle back into rhythm. Not because of revenge. Not because of power. But because we were finally free of the one person who thought rules were for everyone but her. Order, slowly, was restored. That was the end of the story. I keep thinking about Marcus. The way he stood up in court and told the truth, even knowing how uncomfortable it made him and how close he came to losing everything. Did he do the right thing? Or would you have stayed silent in his place? Let me know in the comments. And if this story hit you somewhere deep, don't forget to like and subscribe. I've got more coming.